You know, the zombies, man, they just can't handle the truth. Greetings, all, it's Max, and we're back, and today we're taking a look at some information that I kind of ran across, kind of looking for other things, but you know, you get that, you find the rabbit, and then you want to follow the path, and or the trail, or the whatever. Wow, what are we going to take a look at today? It looks like we got Cooties deaths worldwide per 1 million population as of September 24th, 21 by country. Okay. A lot of people are already familiar with, you know, stats out there, even that the CDC gives you. This is from a place called Statista, okay, which is a private for-profit run organization that tracks data primarily for marketing. They are owned by a marketing super conglomerate out there in Germany, and that's their primary focus as being part of that, but they also cover other things. And the reason that I actually put some fair amount of stock into this is this site. It says you can, for instance, I want to get an Excel spreadsheet, right? You get your typical thing of, well, if you get a, we'll give it to you if you sign up and give us your email so we can have your marketing data right. So for free, I should be able to download some sort of a graph or some sort of, I should be able to save this information, okay? But really, they want you to pay $39 a month. Now, who has $39 per month to spend on stats? Basically, just research organizations. And the funny thing is, you try out for getting a registering your account, and it won't accept any Google emails or any Microsoft emails or even my Proton mail. It just doesn't like a standard email that anybody would use. But imagine that you put in .org. And all of a sudden, it thought about that and said it didn't like my username. Okay. Well, let's put in .edu. Okay, no problems. .gov. All right. So, this is information that is out there that's for private stuff, and they obviously, yeah, anybody can sign up, right? As long as you're part of the club in some way, shape, or form, as long as you're affiliated with the special people. The zombies. As long as you're part of the zombie apocalypse. So what do we have here? This is going to be a long, rambly thing, and I'm going to cover about 4 or 5 different topics. That's just going to be how it is. I will have the time codes in the description. They should pop up in the video with what I'm going to talk about, where I am going to talk about. And I am going to say like, share, subscribe, and send this information off to all your friends and buddies. I've just opted to have a Twitter account. I'm gonna see how long it takes me to get banned just by putting my videos on there. We'll see. But you know, all that stuff, this is things that people need to come to grips with, and you know, what is truth and all of that, and you need to realize this and what's going on. Otherwise, you just put your slave mask back on. All right. This is irrefutable data. A lot easier to come by than what you're going to get out of the CDC is the same stuff. They say, put your mask on, put your mask on, put your mask on. Social distance. Okay, this is per 1 week. Right, the statistics for the people that are dying from Cooties. All right, so we look at the list. There's only 50 on here because I am not one of the EDUs or the .govs. They won't give me an account. Probably a good idea. So I have to make this video in order to put this information out there. I will, of course, include a link to this exact page for anyone to take a look at, but I got to do a video because it could get altered, as things on the internet do. So let's take a look at it. Number 1 country, okay? Number 1 country on the list. Now you can sort these by highs and lows, so everyone can see. Look at all the countries with zeros, all right? But anyways, we'll go to the absolute most highest death per 1 million. Now, most of the time they do death per capita, okay? Which is by population. And that number has generally always been 100,000 when you're talking about medical. But you know, if they did it per 100,000 on this list, you wouldn't even have one person on there. Okay? You wouldn't even have, you wouldn't have anything. Because there's less than one person would die in 100,000. And it's the same percentage, right? But kind of hard to get all worked up with something that's less than one person dead. Well, we'll take a look at that. It is actually way less than one person dead when you do the math. So in Georgia, confirmed cases, 600,000 confirmed cases. 10,000 in the last 7 days. Deaths confirmed total out of this 600,000 is 8,000. Okay. Deaths in the last 7 days, 265. Deaths per million, I mean, you take the population into account with all of those numbers. Out of every 1 million people, 71.23 will die of cooties. And we are, of course, saying that all of this stuff is real and it all exists 100%, okay? That is the basis that we are doing. I did the math on this before anything happened with cooties. I did this back in 2020, in February. Okay, so let's see if anything has changed. The number one place with the highest cases that's in this list, and we'll talk about the guys who are not in the list, but the number one real sort of looks like it's factual according to the numbers is Georgia, which is not the state of Georgia, it is the country of Georgia. 71.23 out of 1 million people. And realize not everyone's all very good at math, all right? So rather than pull up a calculator and do basic math, yeah, I know a lot of you guys got a lot of fluoride in the brain. Percentage calculator. 71, you see I put it in already, is what percent of 1 million? Gotta go slow for the zombies. Your chances of dying from cooties in the most highest death rate country in the world is 0.0071%. Otherwise known as 1/1000th of a percent. 1/1000th. Not even. So you're not even talking 99.9 whatever. You're talking 99.9993. Okay? 99.993 chance of survival. When I did my numbers in February 2020, I did them on the calculator and calculated out to 99.900 something, 3 or something, 99.9993, something like that. We're talking about rounding errors. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. They can fake all the cases they want to. They can turn the flu into cooties. They can turn measles, mumps, rubella. Hey, they can turn all this stuff and turn it all into cooties. There's just not enough people croaking. Not enough people croaking. Hey, put your muzzle back on. You got to get something in your, you got to get the jab in the face or the arm or the buttocks before you can have your job. Oh, yeah, I'm just a conspiracy theorist. Conspiracy theorist. I was right 2 years ago. I'm right now. What's the difference between me and everybody else out there? Oh, I actually look for myself at what these numbers are. I can do math. I'm not fluoridated out. Or opiated out, whatever. Everyone's on opium because they're all fearful and depressed. Okay, so we've concluded that your odds of surviving the cooties, 99.9993% chance of survival. Now, of these people who died, we know of that the overwhelming majority, it doesn't matter how many, have comorbidities, averaging 2.5 comorbidities. That means that 0.0071% probably croaked from something else. Oh, but what about Israel? What about Israel? You know, it's funny. I want to find Israel on here, but Israel is not on the list. I also wanted to download this because, you see, it doesn't quite fit in the frame, right? I think they do that on purpose to make you sign up, but then they won't give me an account. These jerks. But you want to go to 50 records. They have 200 in the list, but you can only see 50 unless you're one of the earmarked special boy people. One of those zombies with .gov or .edu in their email. Okay, they don't have... Oh, they do have Israel. Okay, this is supposedly... They do have Israel. I must have missed it the first time. Makes it really hard to find, though. So, there's the Israel with 1 million cases, right? I can't keep track of it. There we go. 1 million cases. Israel, they got to have boosters. Everybody's triple vaccinated. Everybody's, got everything. Oh, Israel is all terrible. How many actual deaths do they have per million people? 12.92. 12.92. Let's just make it an even 13, shall we? Shall we just make it an even 13? Let's go back to basic math. Basic first grade math. 13 is what percent of 1 million? 0.0013. So in Georgia, in the most highly toxic, infected cooties place that you can possibly go with the highest chance of death among any nation, 99.993% chance of survival. Israel, 99.999% chance of survival. Okay. But what does all this mean? What does all this mean? I don't know. What does it mean, guys? What does it mean? Look at all these guys with 0. And this is in the last 7 days, you see. This is how many people that they say have died in the last 7 days. But you see, when I do the per capita, per 1 million people, and the actual rate that people are checking out, it doesn't matter. It's per capita. It doesn't matter. You would think United States with 300 million people in it would have at least a couple thousand people in a week check out from Cooties. What the news makes it seem like. Nope. Where's good old Stalingrad, USA? Let's take a look. USA is a ways down the list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th. Total confirmed cases, 42 million since they decided to start counting. 600,000 in the last 7 days. Oh my. Confirmed deaths, 680,000. And we know a lot are fraud, but whatever, we'll just go with 680,000. 680,000 total confirmed deaths in a couple of years now, out of 42 million. 680,000, you just say that, it sounds like a lot. Well, 42 million's a lot too. How many unborn babies have died this year to abortion? How many millions? How many millions of babies are aborted every year? What's the number one cause of death by a mile? That would be abortion. Huh. The numbers are funny, aren't they? Everybody wants to care about, oh, there's 71 people a week that died in Georgia from the Cooties. And what? 100,000 to abortion? Where is United States? 35.54. 36. So half. Okay? If you round up Georgia to 72 instead of 71.23, and you look at America at 35.54, it's half. Exactly half of what Georgia is in deaths per 1 million people. We got to have that passport. We got to get the special passport that shows I'm a special boy, and I got to stand on the X. When are those going away? When do those going away, do you think? The X's and the circles on the floor at all of your fascist, flippin' communist, New World Order businesses that have taken over every city in every single country across the world? Go to Kosovo to Home Depot. Reinforce your mud hut with some 2x4s from Home Depot. Do you guys not see what's going on? Do you not see this stuff? Do you not see this? Put the tap water down with the fluoride in it. Go a little slower, and we'll go back to our percentage calculator. 35 per 1 million people, United States. 0.0035. Hey, you know what? That's exactly the number that I quoted. 99.997% back in February 2020. No matter how much they try to inflate the numbers, they just can't get away from that. Who's a liar? Is Max a liar? Is Max a crazy conspiracy guy? A fly-by-nighter who's just on here to get clicks and to make that mad YouTube cash? All right, so anyways, you guys can see what's going on here. I do want to cover this on the side because obviously there's a whole lot of missing countries. It says region worldwide, so they do have data on all the countries. If you are one of the elected chosen who has been initiated by Satan or something, and you have access to an edu or a .gov email, you may be able to sign up for Statista and get the rest of these results. Okay, so special properties, because reporting is not equal among all these countries. Based on 2019 population figures with this country's dependencies, if daily change is negative, then the dependencies are reported as new figures earlier than the main country. So they throw out the negative results. How do you have a negative result in the deaths by Cooties? Because after the fact, the place that's falsely reporting death by Cooties gets come down on, and they have to reverse those and revert those deaths from death by Cooties to whatever actually killed them. So they're going by the 2019 population figures, okay? Not the 2021s. So actually the numbers are lower, which is actually a great way to obfuscate the actual numbers, is we'll say, well, the latest population data we have for Georgia is from like 1970, right? But there is only like 20 people in the country, and they all got Cooties. At least here they're telling you they're using 2019 data. A lot of times they don't if they want to lie to you. Supplementary notes. The numbers shown here are not an automated update, but a manual one. So they get to pick and choose the information that they want. Now, keep in mind, this is not a government institution. This is a privately for-profit thing, which is why I believe it's 100% accurate. Who's going to pay them for crappy data? But they are saying here that they're collating the data, you should say. And here is why they continue into why they're doing that. Number can change fast, sometimes within minutes. After they show on this platform, it's Statista's policy to update these numbers at least once per day. But we strive to do this more frequently than that. It includes updates on Saturday and Sunday, delays however possible. Obviously, you have glitches where someone flubs a number, or however this works, and it gets shot into the system, and they have to go in there and correct it, or delete the entry, or whatever they have to do. But they are picking and choosing. For the statistic numbers reported by Johns Hopkins University have been compared with the latest available population numbers. The population numbers in the table are rough indices. The calculation used more precise numbers, and they're talking about their population because their numbers are 100% based on the general population numbers. Otherwise, they're meaningless. Then they have a subheader 2 as to like their little asterisks. The source originally put numbers together for some countries and their dependencies. Denmark concluded that the numbers for Denmark, Greenland, and the Faroe Islands, whereas Netherlands included numbers for Karaku, Aruba, and Dutch parts. So they split up things, and they split up United States with the Bahamas and stuff like that. And it says down here, for consistency, countries with smaller populations and potentially much higher impact of Cooties deaths were not included in the table. So they're collecting worldwide data on Cooties deaths, trying to be as accurate as possible. But when they get to these little tiny countries, these little third world hole in the grounds, mud hut places, they threw out their data. But what about these poor people? What about these poor people? Should they not be counted? Right? And they list several examples: Montenegro, Gibraltar, San Marino, French Polynesia. And the reason that they're throwing them out, and they said it's because they're such small populations that their numbers were abnormally high. You have these little broke countries that the people who are running them are just labeling every single death a Cooties death so they get UN money. So the statistics place who's going to track this and is trying to find a realistic number as being accurate, right? They just look at that and they throw it out. I mean, like, when you have 1/1000th of a percent or something to be killed of Cooties, and then you have some country where it's like 1 in 5. Okay? Obviously, they're lying. But they don't want to say they're lying. They just say, well, because there's such a small population number. How does Cooties even get to Montenegro? How does Cooties get to these secluded islands? Is it the white man? Did he come there with his polio blankets or whatever he brought the Native Americans? What was that? Smallpox or something? Did we come with the smallpox Cooties? We came with the cootie blankets, and we said, oh, yes, well, we have these blankets for you. You can use in your mud huts. You know? They don't have airports everywhere, guys. You know what is everywhere? The UN. And you say you have Cooties outbreak. They break out their $100 bills, and they go, well, let me know how much. Let me know how much. And they're out there going, everybody, show me the money. And if I was running one of those countries, I would too. Because they don't have any reason, you know, they're not going to lock their people down in these tiny little countries. They're not going to do any of this stuff. It's just free money. Free money they can use to trade with other nations. They don't have any Gestapo forces like they have in Europe and like they have in the United States and like they have in Canada, and don't have any like Gestapo forces in Bermuda or any of those. Everybody. How many people have died of the flu this year? None? Yeah, none. None. We're gonna, as we get into that, we're going to talk about compensation for injury or death caused by certain jabs that people have gotten. And this is all the way between 1988 and 1921. And they say here that for all of those different things you can get jabbed for, the highest success and the highest rate of people being injured that the government has to compensate for is the flu vaccine. Now, they don't have on this list the ones that you cannot be compensated for, such as the one that gives you a little gene therapy. You'll get the Cooties, but it won't be as bad, and you might not die. You're less likely to die if you got the jab of the Cooties. Where's my fluoride? Where's my fluoride? Instead of having a 1 in 1,000 times a million% chance of being, you're a little bit less likely. So, there are a lot of things out there that aren't approved by the government. But the ones that are, and that they force you to take, okay, they have to pay if somebody hurts you. But they're going to fight tooth and nail because they get a lot more money than you do. They got a lot more money. So the number one thing that they're paying out for is influenza. Now, it says here there's only 4,000 that they've compensated for in 30 years? 30 years. You look over here, and it says that, note, being awarded compensation for a petition does not necessarily mean that the jab caused the alleged injury. They paid out for it. Oh, over 80% of all compensation awarded by VICP comes as a result of a negotiated settlement. So this number over here is the official compensated, but there is at least, it says here, over 80%. Over. It doesn't say 80%. It says over 80%. It could be 99%. Government gets all the, I bet they get 4,000 lawsuits a day in America. I would bet they get 4,000 claims a day in America. Okay? But the ones, how many did they pay out for? 20 or 30 a year, according to their numbers here. But it says right here, over 80% of all compensation is done in backroom deals where they don't want, they'll do anything to not be a stat. Because if you're trying to make sure that, oh no, everything is safe, everything is fine here, everything is safe, everything is good, because you think it's like, well, you're the government. You can just print up as much money as you want to. Why not just pay all these things? Because people will get wise and they'll put the fluoride down. You can't do that. So you say, well, we know you're suing to get your $20,000 a year Social Security because we completely destroyed your life with this vaccine we made you take. We know we've been fighting you for 20 years now on your Social Security payment of, $1,500 a month. But, we're going to do right by you. And rather than do this, we'll pay all of your legal fees and we'll give you $500,000. We'll just settle it at $500,000. Right? After you fought all this way, they know they're going to lose. And then you're going to take the money because you ain't got nothing left fighting these guys. And they'll make it a decent deal. $500,000 or something. They don't care. But it stays off the books. Off the books. Settled. Probably a non-disclosure thrown in there for good measure. So that's what's going on for that. And that's what they're telling you right here in their data. Is that they don't cover everything because they can't. If it's not in this particular statistic, they can't. they don't give you the magic number for how many are settled out because they probably don't keep very good track of that. Probably don't keep very good track of how many total cases were settled without an official ruling by any judge. You know the other thing too about going to court with these things and about suing manufacturers of these things? The other thing about that is it becomes part of public record. You don't want things to become part of public record, right? Money's free. Pay people off. So, as we're on the topic of these things, everybody, in order to go to school and go become a good little commie and a good little zombie, you got to get a thing called an MMR, which is probably just saline solution. Okay? Probably just saline solution. So that was a big deal. I think they broke that out when Gen X started going to school. And look at this. In 1960, they basically said everybody in America had MMR, measles, mumps, and rubella. I don't know. I wasn't around back then. I kind of don't think it was that. I kind of think it was probably something like, you know, DDT or something. Probably. When you're having a skin reaction to something, it's usually your body is trying to get rid of toxin. But I don't know. I don't know anything. I don't know anything. I can barely do math. So, anyways, I know that they still mandated this stuff all the way up through when I was going to school, and like, I didn't ever have to get anything after junior high school. But we'll just say the 90s, right? So, big explosion in 1960. I don't know when the MMR supposedly came out. It's funny how these numbers, too, when you go and try and find research on stuff, they only want to go back to 1945. They don't want to go back there's nothing going on before 1945. Oh, it's a baby boomers. Nobody knew how to have sex before 1945. What is this thing between my legs? I don't know. I don't know what it's for. Well, you know, huh? You know what happened with the baby boomers? Is that the population before was poisoned because the birth rate was way up high, and then it went down for 20 years to like nothing. And then where this generation called the baby boomers is, it went back up to where it should be. And then they figured out what abortion was, and then it went back down to just about nothing. Where for every 2 people now in a couple, you're producing 1.8. All right, so our lovely MMR thing that everyone has to take, forced vaccination, right? It's against the law. You got to have your kid go to school, but to go to school, you got to have the vaccination, right? Oh, we're not forcing it. We're not forcing it. Okay, so how many people are having measles? Basically, we're talking about measles. So, since the 2000s or even since the late 90s, you got a couple hundred people. Really pretty much after, 60s, 1970s. So, basically once you got into the 1990s, it was non-existent to the point where now in 2021, they had 2 cases of measles. Does anyone think those were actual measles cases? I don't know. But remember, there's 300 million people in America, and they've got 2 people with measles. 2. All right. Seems like we need to mandate that crap for all babies. Everyone who's born needs to have that. And then you see here, this is the funny thing. You see, if this jab is doing so good at getting rid of measles, you got in 2018 you have 375 total cases out of 300 million people. Okay, but then the next year it quadruples. In 2019 it quadruples. Well, what happened in 2019? You have this wild measles outbreak when everybody is supposed to be vaccinated from measles, mumps, rubella. Did it not work that year? And then all of a sudden in 2020, you go from 1,200 measles cases to 13. What happened there in What happened there in 2020? And then in 2021, you've got 2. So, never mind the fact that 66 people, 187 people, 600. Hey, guess what, guys? 27,000 people. Hey, guess what? 441,000 people. Back in 1960, there wasn't 300 million people here, but even out of like 100 million people, is still only like 1%. I'm going to do the math. It's probably more than 1%, but it sounds like a lot until you put the numbers next to each other, okay? So we can actually find out. We can go to our calculator. How many people do you think there was here in 1960? 200 million? Well, that ain't right. Do I have 20? No. Do I have not enough? I have very much not enough. 0.21%. So 411,000 people in a year sounds like it's crazy. Actually, that wasn't in a year. That was all of 1960 to 1970. Yeah. All of 1960. It's either from 1950 to 1960 or from 1960 to 1970. It's everything. 441,000. And maybe there wasn't 200 million people back then. Maybe. But it's 0.21%, so we'll just say there's 100 million people. 100 million people. 0.41%. Okay? We get this? We need to have national mandated. If you want to go to school or get your zombie train, you gotta get the jab. Because there's a 0.41% chance you might get the itchies. You might get the itchies. Okay, let's just say there's 50 million people. Look at that, not even up to 1% yet at 50 million people. They still teach math in school? I don't know. I talked to a lady who was worked with blood and tested people for disease and stuff like that, who is a boomer. Okay? I don't know what they teach people in school, but I said, we were talking about cooties, and I go, yeah, well, this is back in 2020, the summer of 2020. Talking to these people, and they're not dumb people. This person worked in the field, and I'm like, yeah, well, it seems kind of odd that anything could mutate and spread when viruses aren't alive. He's like, they are too. I go, no, they're not. I've worked as a blood specialist for 25 years, and they're, like I was the idiot. I learned that in 7th grade, probably even before 7th grade. Viruses aren't alive, guys. How can something that's dead mutate? How can something that's dead reproduce? If I decided to put my car outside next to another car, can I plan on my cars reproducing? Is the car going to mutate into an SUV? Guys, a virus and germs. Brains. Do you not think there is a reason that these psychopaths out there use the zombie metaphor and that they run around talking about they need brains? So where I think I mentioned this, about supposedly the baby boomers, they didn't know what the pee-pee was used for. I know, but JJ, I don't know. Okay? That's what we're supposed to believe. Oh, just the explosion of people because of World War II. You know how many people died in World War II? All of them strong, virile, ready to go men. The best in the country went off to go fight that war. Those people got wiped out. Who's making all these kids? Why is it so special in that particular area? Well, let's look at Statista, who is not a government agency, but gets paid to come up with the real numbers. Oh, look, they do the numbers that go all the way back to 1810. Look at that. Look at that. Ah, yeah, people were really having a good time back then. The crude birth rate in the United States. Gradually going down, gradually going down, gradually going down. Okay? And then what happens here? 1930. 1930. Bam. Just floored. 1930 until 1950. Just gutted. Just gutted. The amount of people having kids. They'd put something in the water to sterilize people in the United States or something. I don't know. But apparently they figured it out because this is abnormal. And you could say, well, people were off at war for a bit. I guess that would equate for some of that. But when they say the baby boom explosion, like this is why we don't have any money in the government, is because of taking care of these boomers that are just overwhelming the system. We don't know how to figure it out. It's a lie. Any more boomers? They didn't have any more kids than any other time. If you follow this line and you take the dip out of it, which obviously something happened there, okay? If you take that dip out of there, this line continues down and it would have gone straight through where the boomers are. Straight through. The baby boomers, just this explosion of kids, total lie. Total lie. Total lie. And then, of course, once the boomers figured out they could have abortions, then, yeah, that's it. No more kids for anybody. No more kids. Replace the kids with Buicks. Yep. And, that's where we at today. That's where we at today, except in Texas. Right? Except in Texas. Yeah, we're going back from 1960 and the fertility rates, and everyone wants to blame, everything. They want to blame fertility rates on everything else except the actual problems. But yeah, it's not fertility rate. It's how many babies are being born. That's not fertility rate. Okay? You can see right here, it obviously is in decline. But then right there around the 1970s, you makes a big old dip. Boy, I wonder what happened around there. Big old dip. Now, when you murder your baby in the womb, does that have anything to do with your fertility? No, it does not. No, it doesn't. What else do we got here? More on that stuff. I'm kind of all done. This information, of course, everything is all up there on the interwebs for everyone to go check out. Now, you may not appreciate the way that I speak about these things, but you just realize that after a couple of years, this gets a little grating. The fact that I have to wear a dumb little plexiglass helmet or whatever at work, at a grocery store that's just a big fascist New World Order, little whatever. It is what it is, and everybody works in them now. Everybody works in these little cog and the machine places with little X's drawn on the floor and security cameras videotaping and capturing your what you sound like, capturing your image using facial recognition. I got to use a fingerprint to punch in my time clock. All over, and answer questions about whether or not I got cooties. All over this lie. This lie. Where your odds of surviving cooties, 99.997%, the same today that it was in 2019 into 2020. all the way through. Oh, somebody tested positive. We got to shut the town down. Ugh. What is wrong? What is wrong with you people? What is wrong with you people? What do you think is going to happen when all the people who don't play along with this stuff? Okay? What do you think is going to happen when we decide not to be a part of this thing that's going on? Okay? You just going to wait on the sidelines and put your little mask on and put your little plexi helmet on and do what they just do what they told you. Just do what they told you. Just do what they told you. Well, I had to get the Cooties thing because I didn't want to wear a mask anymore. Nah, fluoride, nah. Where's my Big Mac? They gave me a donut. Someone better come up with a reason why I shouldn't have absolute utter contempt for people these days. And you got a reason? And the thing is, it really makes me mad because I'm not particularly bright. And the amount of zombified idiots. I don't know anybody who is not, right now, that I had worked with or that I had met in this town. 5,000 people. All the people on the interwebs that I'd interact with, there might be a half a dozen. And a lot of people who don't fall for the bulk and just don't like the understand more or less what's going on, but then they'll still fall for, well, it can't all be fake. Cooties must be real. Why? Cooties, for anyone out there who didn't do any research or look at anything, Cooties is basically proven to be non-existent. It doesn't exist, guys. It doesn't. And you want to call me a liar and say, that's not true. Government wouldn't lie. Governments have been sued all across the world to provide proof that Cooties exists. Not a single one could provide any evidence at all that Cooties exists. So that begs the question, how do you test for it if you don't know what it is? How do you know that it's mutating and you have variants that you cannot even isolate what you say is causing these problems? And there, you know what? At the end of the day, there is no problems. Not enough people are dying. Good luck to you in the zombie apocalypse if you want to continue on with this charade and not do anything about it. And what do I suggest people do about these things? You be the grain of sand in the clock, in the gears, in the little clock, and just be a little grain of sand to slow down the clock gears a little bit. And talk to stuff with people around you about what they think about things. You don't need to go out there and be all demonstrating and having a sign and putting yourself on any radar. Have conversations with people. Point out little things here and there. And don't go down easy. If your stupid fascist New World Order company wants to try and push some crap on you because they don't have any protection, their only protection is the hope that you comply and you volunteer, which is what you're doing. You let them stick some needle in you, you are volunteering for it. You're giving consent. And you tell them, I will take anything you want. Once I get that liability contract signed, that you accept all liability for any damages that happen to me, I'll take anything you want. Well, we can't. Well, and you go, what? If it's not safe, why won't you accept liability? Well, that's a refusal then. See, they'll put words in your mouth and say that you're refusing because you're asking them to provide a liability statement. And you go, it's okay. I can write up the contract right here. Who's the guy that owns this place? So we can have them sign off. We can have Satan Klaus Schwab. We can have him sign off on it. And hey, they may let you go. But it's a heck of an unemployment case, isn't it? You can say, I don't know, I was going to comply and they let me go. How is the company going to fight that? You're asking for them to pay damages should you be injured by something they're forcing you to do. Another thing you can use is the 10th Amendment. It is incredibly criminal to make somebody work without compensation. That is slavery. Talking to you, IRS. Talking to you, IRS. Among many other stuff, but the IRS is the most ridiculous one. Oh, John, I'm going to fill out this form and collect up all my stuff to pay in. Where is my compensation for doing that? Right? That's a totally different topic. But when it comes to your companies, you know, the government is a big old guerrilla mafia, okay? They don't have to play by the rules because they're all just a bunch of zombie drones in there. Just doing my job. Just doing a job. Whatever. A bunch of zombie drones. And they can mess with you a lot. And just how it is. But a corporation, there's no reason to fear a corporation in America at this moment because they are bound by all the different laws. And it's only by effectively trying to take away people's, you know, income because people are become so dependent on these corps, and they don't pay you anything, guys. You realize that if you're not making $30 an hour, you're not even making minimum wage. Okay, I had another conversation with my dad yesterday about when he was growing up and what he paid for a house and what his uncle paid for a house. And he made $1.45 or something an hour, and his uncle made $2.25 an hour. And he paid for his house, built it brand spanking new on a plot of land. The land and the house together were less than $8,000 back, 1965. Okay? Working minimum wage, guys. What's the minimum wage today? $7.50. Huh. You might think, you know, I'm doing pretty good, you know, I'm making like twice minimum wage. I'm making $14 an hour. Like, you're $14 an hour. I want you to go buy a plot of land with that and build a brand new house. The average house in America today, guys, $300,000, and it went up. Of all the houses on the market, $360,000, guys. $1965, $8,000. 2021, $360,000. I can do math and do the division on that. 400%. So, are you making 400% more than the dollar or the $2 an hour, whatever they're making? No. Well, actually, you would if you do it percentage, but you get the gist of what I'm meaning. And over time, once the boomers are gone out of that whole system where you could still work for a company, now they're all just owned by McDonald's or they're owned by Disney. And they will pay you nothing because what are you going to do? The only options that you have is to get a job at the other company that the super mega conglomerate corporate thing owns. For instance, I got a job, I'm at Fox. I got Fox, I'm a film producer at Fox, and Disney's ha 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 ha. Okay, Disney bought Fox. So what is Mr. Film Producer going to do? Is he going to go work for some other production? Oh, it's owned by Disney too. Is he going to work for some other production? Oh, it's owned by Disney too. I want to make this movie. Well, Disney doesn't approve. Yeah, but I'm Fox. Yeah, but you know, Disney, all-seeing eye. It's above all the corporations. Okay? And this applies to every big corporation out there. Let me tell you, corporations out there, they would pay you nothing if they could. Nothing. They would give you coupons. I don't care how good you think your company is or how good they say they are. They would pay you in coupons. Here's $5 off the next pair of shoes you want to get. This is why anti-monopoly laws were put in place, is because companies did just that. The particularly evil bastards like Rockefeller would set up little encampment towns where people would go to work and they would pay you in tickets that you could only redeem at the communist local general store. Well, I don't care. I got enough tickets. I can pay for my Netflix and my video games and sit in my mom's basement. I don't need many tickets to survive, right? That's the mentality. You guys got to wake up. Wake up. Wake up. 35 deaths per 1 million people. Point. 99.997 survival rate. Since 2019, we still got X's on the floor. We're wearing our masks. We got to take booster shots. We got to do all this stuff. You can do it. You can do it if you want to. You can do it if you want to. I think there is this website out there that called for a massive population decrease in America during this time. And no one could figure out how it's going to happen. I figured out how it's going to happen now. Whether or not that's going to come to fruition or not, that all depends on you guys. Whether or not we're going to have the tyrannical takeover and be like a little Australia or be like a little New Zealand, that's on you guys. And guess what? Things get really bad in your area, you can just look in the mirror at who's to blame. Okay? And you can look to your neighbors and go, yep, they're to blame too. Yep, they're to blame. Unless you're an outlier, and if you're an outlier like me, who does everything they can to get out information and get out the truth, and talk to people, try to knock some sense into people, try to fire people up a little bit, I say a lot of unpleasant things. Do you think I just do that because I like talking about that? Or do you think I do that to make some people think? Anyways, with that, we are going to be out of here. Thinking about doing a video on inheritance, because I thought that was kind of funny about nobody leaving inheritance to their kids, but hey, me. Who knows? We'll see. With that, for now, we're going to be out of here.